And I gradually developed this thesis that war is not something that's in our genes. A lot of people think it is, but war is a relatively recent human invention. It really only broke out, maybe 8 to 10,000 years ago, especially in the Middle East,
Hmm.
which seems appropriate since there's so much war there still. And I wrote this book, The End of War, really to convince people that war isn't something that we have no control over. It's
Hmm.
not this behavior that's coded into our genes that we just can't escape.
Hmm.
It's something that we choose to do,
Right.
that we can choose not to do anymore. I admit that's a hard sell right now. Talking about the end of war just makes most people think you're nuts. But I'm more convinced than ever that it's possible and it's something that we absolutely have to do to save our species.
So when you talk about ending war, that has to be more of a an option that humans need to exercise, right? It's not
Yeah.
something that's going to be naturally causing. So Steven Pinker kind of like talks about the opposite of that as well.
Yeah, Pinker is somebody who's very relevant to this discussion. Pinker wrote a book called Better Angels of Our Nature, in which he talked about this long decline of violence and cruelty in human history. So he's actually pretty sympathetic toward the idea of war, even though he does think that war is in our biology, it's in our nature somehow. But when he wrote Better Angels, he was optimistic that that at least we could greatly reduce the degree of warfare and violence that we engage in. And as far as what do we do to replace war, we've already got all these institutions
Hmm.
that are designed to get us talking to each other, to help us reach uh, resolutions where we avoid warfare. That's what the UN was designed
Hmm.
for. Um, that's what international treaties are for. Uh, and even if you look at our legal systems in this country, those are designed to help individuals and institutions avoid conflict. So you
Right.
can have one state, New Jersey, I live in New Jersey, might have a conflict with New York State and over, I don't know, water distribution or something or
Yeah.
pollution. They don't go to war over that. They don't bomb each other. They go to court and
Hmm.
try to figure it out through the legal system, which is imperfect, but at least it keeps us from killing each other in large numbers. So I think we just need to apply some of the inventions that we already have for avoiding violence and resolving conflicts nonviolently.
And okay, so let me paint a better picture. We have different countries, and for the most part, we operate the same way. We respect other countries' sovereignty, right?
Yeah.
Every country has a political system. We respect that. So when it comes to war, there could be a framework, and this is kind of like the argument that you make, right? There could be a framework that everyone respects, just like we respect every country's sovereignty. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yes. I mean, again, this is what the United Nations was designed to do. The problem is the United Nations is quite weak, and a lot of countries just ignore it. And if they want to go to war, they go to war. The United States has done this repeatedly. Russia just did it when it invaded Ukraine. Um, so the
Yeah.
United Nations is really just kind of it's supposed to be a moral force
Hmm.
that tells us what it thinks is right and wrong and tries to discourage nations from going to war with each other, but it doesn't have any legal force behind it.
Hmm.
So we keep going to war.
Mhm.
And the problem is when war breaks out, it tends to be self-perpetuating.
Right.
So when Russia invades Ukraine or the US invades Afghanistan or Iraq and now Venezuela, other
Yeah.
countries go, well, look, if the United States is doing this, why can't we do it?
Mhm.
And so that perpetuates this idea that war is okay in some circumstances. One of the things that I try to do with my writing, I write about war all the
Mhm.
time. I mean, I have this book, The End of War, that's about 15 years old now. But I also have a website, and I constantly am writing about the wars in Gaza, the war in Ukraine, um, and I try to get people just to see war as crazy,
Yeah.
as this really grotesque, primitive behavior. We're supposed to be civilized, and the U.S., um, which in some ways is the greatest country ever in human history, routinely goes to war and bombs children. It
Mhm.
bombs old people, totally innocent people. How can that be? How can we call ourselves civilized when we engage in behavior like that? So I'm trying to get people to see just to see war as this terrible, terrible behavior that should be totally obsolete. It's going to be difficult to get rid of it. It's deeply embedded in our culture,
Mhm.
but I'm hoping that we can become aware of it in this way and figure out ways to get beyond it once and for all.
I mean, especially American culture, because we have this sense of being patriotic and supporting the military, but at the same time, we're subconsciously supporting a war machine that causes, people to lose their lives and invading other countries and such.
Yeah, I mean, so another reason to get rid of war is just because we spend so much money on it and we
Mhm.
devote so much of our resources to it, and there's so many people whose lives are dedicated to thinking about how to kill others or how to intimidate others and force them
Mhm.
to do things they don't want to do. A lot of our scientists and engineers are designing better weapons. Now, right now, artificial intelligence, a
Mhm.
big source of funding for artificial intelligence is the military. There's an arms race in artificial intelligence between China, Russia, the US, and other countries. We spend about $1 trillion a year, the US, on the military.